Imagine the irony. A person who once held the power to shape the careers of fresh faces was now desperately trying to save his own job. It's not uncommon for professionals to explore new opportunities, but in my case, the harsh reality was that I'd become disconnected from the evolving market. The salary I was hoping for seemed like a pipe dream, and what was being offered was, well, let's just say it was a tough pill to swallow. Life's full of ups and downs, and while it's easy to get caught up in the roller coaster, it's crucial to take ownership of our actions and acknowledge our shortcomings. So what came next in my job hunt was a humbling experience, one that I'd rather forget, but I'm sharing it with you because it's a story worth telling. After losing my high-paying job, I was left reeling, desperately searching for my next opportunity. As I navigated the job market, I realized my academic credentials and work experience were no longer relevant. My expectations for a new job with a similar salary had to be tempered. Upon reviewing my resume, I saw it was filled with high-profile designations and outdated technical skills that didn't match what most companies were looking for. I decided to rewrite my resume, tailoring it to fit what the market needed. To my surprise, I landed an interview with a company that asked if I had experience in supply chain management and business development for a software house. I confirmed I had both, although my supply chain experience was from early in my career. The employer was impressed, noting that out of thousands of applicants, I was one of the few with this unique combination of skills. What caught their attention was exactly what I had once protested against: a role in supply chain management that was forcefully assigned to me. Little did I know this experience would become a key factor in landing my new job. The story of how I ended up in that role is quite interesting and worth sharing. Let's dive deeper into that story. I was assigned to the supply chain role without any input, and at the time I wasn't thrilled about it. But it turns out this twist of fate ended up being a game changer. The company I interviewed with valued candidates with diverse skill sets, and my unconventional background made me stand out. This experience taught me the importance of being adaptable and open to new opportunities. Sometimes the skills we acquire in unexpected ways can lead to the most significant breakthroughs in our careers. In the end, my journey showed me that even the most unlikely experiences can become valuable assets in the job market. By embracing change and updating my skills, I was able to find a new path forward. I still remember the thrill of starting my first job as a software developer. It was a dream come true, and I was eager to prove myself. But little did I know my role would soon take an unexpected turn. Our company was a respected name in the industry with a strong market presence. However, beneath the surface, I discovered that resources were stretched thin. One person who kept the wheels turning was our supply chain manager. This unsung hero was responsible for importing cutting-edge IT equipment, managing inventory, and ensuring timely delivery to clients. Their expertise was the backbone of our operations, and I would soon find myself drawn into this world in ways I never imagined. It was a typical foggy morning when I arrived at the office, but nothing about the day would turn out to be typical. As I settled in, the news spread like wildfire. Our supply chain manager, the mastermind behind our logistics, had been involved in a terrible accident on his way to work. The details were sketchy, but one thing was clear: his injuries were severe, and he'd be out of commission for a long time. Panic began to set in as the reality sunk in. Our company was on a high, having just landed several major new clients, each with their own set of demanding orders. Without our supply chain manager at the helm, the pressure was on to deliver flawlessly. One misstep, one delayed shipment, one misplaced inventory could spell disaster. Our reputation was on the line, and the stakes couldn't be higher. I had always taken pride in my work as a software developer, and it seemed the management had taken notice. When the news of the supply chain manager's accident broke, I never expected to be considered for the role. Yet there I was, being called into a meeting where the management laid out their plan. I was to take on the additional responsibility of managing the supply chain. I was taken aback, to say the least. Supply chain management was a completely foreign field to me, and the thought of navigating it seemed daunting. I voiced my concerns, but the management's trust in me was palpable. They assured me that this was a temporary measure and I would have all the support I needed until they found a suitable replacement. With a sense of trepidation and determination, I accepted the challenge, unsure of what lay ahead. The first few weeks were a baptism by fire. I was thrown into the deep end of supply chain management without knowing how to swim. Every day was a struggle to keep up with the demands of the job. I'd spend hours poring over spreadsheets, trying to make sense of the complex logistics, and late nights became my new normal. Weekends, once a time for relaxation, were now spent hunched over my desk, trying to stay on top of the workload. The biggest challenge was the time difference between countries.
When the sun was shining brightly in Japan or Germany, it was the middle of the night in the USA.
I'd find myself on phone calls with suppliers at ungodly hours, trying to negotiate prices or track down shipments. The sleep deprivation was taking its toll, but I was determined to prove myself in this new role. It was a tough time, but I was learning fast, and with each passing day I began to feel more confident in my ability to manage the chaos. I hit rock bottom during those grueling weeks. The pressure to perform in a role that was foreign to me was suffocating. There were days when I felt like I was drowning in a sea of uncertainty, and the thought of resigning crossed my mind more than once. I questioned the decision that had led me to take on this role, wondering why I, a software developer with a passion for coding, was now knee-deep in supply chain management. It seemed like a cruel joke, but in the midst of this turmoil, I received a call from my father. He could sense the frustration in my voice and knew I was struggling. He shared stories of his own hardships, of the struggles he'd faced in his career, and the lessons he'd learned along the way. Every difficult time has a hidden ease that prepares you for tougher days ahead. His words struck a chord within me. I realized that this too shall pass, and that the struggles I was facing were shaping me into a stronger, more resilient person. With renewed determination, I continued down this challenging path, knowing that the lessons I learned would serve me well in the future. The 6-month period was a whirlwind of learning and growth. As I stepped into the dual role of software developer and supply chain manager, I was determined to make the most of it. It wasn't easy, of course. The days were long and the workload was heavy. But with each passing day, I began to feel a sense of comfort and familiarity with the new responsibilities. I was learning to navigate the complexities of supply chain management, and it was exhilarating to see myself grow into this new role. The hard work and dedication didn't go unnoticed. The company's management took notice of my efforts, and their trust in me grew. When the new supply chain manager finally joined, I was ready to hand over the reins, but the experience had already left an indelible mark on my professional journey. It had not only expanded my skill set, but also taught me the value of adaptability and perseverance. And as it turned out, this experience would soon be recognized in ways that would change my career trajectory forever. The day of transition finally arrived, and I was ready to breathe a sigh of relief. Or so I thought. As I sat down with the new supply chain manager, going over the final details and handing over the reins, I felt a pang of nostalgia. The months spent juggling this additional responsibility had been some of the most challenging and rewarding of my career. I had grown accustomed to the early morning calls with suppliers in Europe, the late night emails with clients in Asia, and the constant juggling act of managing different time zones. The stress had been real, but so had the sense of accomplishment. As I watched the new manager take notes and ask questions, I realized that I had become more than just a software developer. I had become a problem solver, a strategist, and a leader. The experience had changed me in ways I was still discovering, and I wasn't sure I was ready to give it all up. The journey into supply chain management was a crash course in global awareness. I quickly realized that understanding the world map was no longer just about memorizing countries and capitals. It was about knowing how goods moved across borders, how time zones impacted logistics, and how different regulations could make or break a shipment. I spent hours poring over documents, learning about the intricacies of import and export procedures, and familiarizing myself with the various certificates required for different types of cargo. At first it was overwhelming, but as I began to grasp the complexities of the field, something shifted. The challenges became exciting, the problems became puzzles to be solved, and the sense of accomplishment grew with each successful shipment. Before long, I found myself looking forward to the daily challenges, and the world of supply chain management had become a new passion. It was a full circle moment when I received the job offer from my new employer. The role I had once viewed as irrelevant and overwhelming had become the highlight of my resume. As I look back on the journey, I realized that those challenging months had been a defining period in my career. The experience had not only honed my skills, but also given me a new perspective on problem solving and adaptability. When I walked into the interview room, I knew I had an edge. The combination of software development and supply chain management expertise made me a unique candidate, and it seemed that the interviewers agreed as they saw the value in my diverse background. My father's words came flooding back. Every current hardship makes future challenges easier, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the struggles I had faced. They had prepared me for this moment, and I was ready to take on the new challenges that lay ahead. If there's one thing I've learned from my journey, it's that unexpected opportunities can be the catalyst for growth. When you're asked to take on an additional role, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or think it's not part of your job description. But I've found that these moments can be turning points in your career. They push you out of your comfort zone, force you to learn new skills, and help you discover strengths you never knew you had. So the next time you're faced with an unexpected challenge, don't shy away from it. Embrace it, learn from it, and trust that it will reward you in ways you never imagined. Your future self will thank you for taking that leap of faith. As I looked back on my journey, I realized that acquiring dual skills had been a game changer. It had opened doors, boosted my confidence, and made me a more versatile professional. But as I was about to discover, having the right skills wasn't enough. Another storm was brewing on the horizon, one that would push me to my limits and force me to confront the harsh realities of the corporate world. It's a story that'll reveal the importance of being adaptable, resilient, and proactive in the face of adversity. So if you're ready to learn from my experiences, let's dive into the next chapter of my journey, where I'll share the lessons I learned the hard way. The journey ahead promises to be a wild ride, full of unexpected detours and surprising revelations. As I continue to navigate the complexities of my career, I'll encounter moments that will test my resolve, push me out of my comfort zone, and force me to confront the harsh realities of my chosen path. But it's in these moments of uncertainty and challenge that I'll discover the true depths of my resilience and determination. So join me as I embark on this winding road where the lessons I've learned and the experiences I've had will shape me into the professional I'm meant to be. The story of my journey is far from over. In fact, it's just getting started.